Hi everyone, welcome to the World Science Movement WSM Education Series. In this episode, we will be covering 21st century skills-based learning. Some of you may have heard 21st century skills before. Soft skills, life skills, and transferable skills are used interchangeably to refer to 21st century skills. I will detail the skills and how we can integrate those skills in learning and education. Let's go. So here is the overview of the section. First, we will start with what are 21st century skills. Then, we will go into details of the components of a 21st century learning framework and global evidence of learning. Why 21st century skills are important. What are things to keep in mind while applying 21st century skills in our learning process. I'm going to show you some examples from our Twin app. Then we wrap up. Let's start with the definition. What are 21st century skills? 21st century skills are a set of competencies that enable students to respond adaptively to new and different situations. With these skills, students can put knowledge into practice by applying what has been in one context and transferring that knowledge to an entirely new one. As we see in this definition of UNESCO, we can understand that these skills are about knowledge and require practice. The good thing about those skills is that they are transferable, so it is crucial for education and essential for other fields that we will explore during the session. So here we can see our unique framework at Twin. At Twin, we created a 21st century learning framework that has 3 components. Those are cognitive, social and emotional, and personal. Each of those categories has relevant skills underneath. For example, for cognitive one, we listed critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. For social and emotional one, it is more about interacting with others and group work studies. You can think of communication, collaboration, social awareness, emotional awareness, global awareness, and leadership. In the personal one, that is more about the not interpersonal, but more intrapersonal skills, those are media and information literacy, digital literacy, self-management, self-awareness, and growth mindset. In this part, we will talk about the global evidence on 21st century skills. As you see here, there is a list of Sustainable Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals introduced by the United Nations UN in 2015. You can see there are 17 global goals listed there. One of those goals is education. Under this goal, one of the targets is about education for sustainable development and global citizenship. And for the target, UN created a report. And in this report, it is written that there is broad agreement about the importance of teaching 21st century skills. However, there is still a great deal of debate about which skills are most important and how such skills should be taught and assessed. As we see here, there is an agreement about the importance of those skills. So countries are willing to integrate those skills. There is a need to know what these skills are and how we can incorporate them. And if we think that we combine these skills, we can assess these skills. During this session, I will tell you how we are implementing and how we are making the assessment Twin Science. So before I start that, as we described before, these skills are essential. Why are these skills important? First of all, to provide quality education. So if we integrate those skills, children will have better learning opportunities and experiences and know the knowledge itself. They have the skills to learn by themselves. So the second thing is everyday life situations, because those skills are about education and touch upon the other parts of our lives, like adapting to changing life situations. As we know that during the COVID process, online learning is getting more and more important, and many teachers and students are adapting to this process. If we have those skills, we will better adapt to those kinds of changing situations. And lastly, those skills are very important to prepare students for future careers. So in that way, those skills are beneficial for students to be better prepared for their future jobs, and they can be active learners who learn important concepts through innovative and creative projects. In this part, I'll be giving you details of how we can integrate 21st century skills into your lessons. First of all, skill-based learning has some key components, and those key components are that we need to have pedagogical content. So that is the curriculum. And classroom management is also about the quality of instruction, but it is more about how you organise the lessons with your students within the classroom. And skill-based assessment shows that if you integrate skills, how you're making the assessment. Is this assessment aligned with your learning objectives? So I listed some of the strategies that will be helpful for you, and I'll be covering those strategies one by one. So first of all, connecting the content knowledge to real-world application and problem situations is one of the ways. In this way, students can better understand how they can apply these skills in their real lives. And secondly, helping students to understand and monitor their thinking process. So for example, if you ask an open-ended question to students, instead of looking at the answer itself, you can ask students how they came up with those answers. What was the path they took? And another one is using technology to help students assess, analyse, organise and share what they're learning. So in this part, they can use the technology to create their own learning. We live in a digital age, so assessing knowledge is not a big issue. But the most important thing is which knowledge is more practical. So making those kind of assessments in that way, technology may help them analyse and share because they can compare the different sources of information to which one to go. And the other way of integrating those skills is engaging students in solving complex problems. So instead of asking them what, you can ask them how and why. And the other way is providing opportunities for students to work collaboratively. So in that way, while they are working with other students in the class, they can experience communication and collaboration skills, helping students make connections between subjects, concepts and ideas with others will be helpful for them to improve their leadership skills and collaboration skills. Here I will be describing some of the examples from our Twin app and how we are integrating skills into our STEM concept. So as you can see in this question, do you know what colour sunlight is? That is a knowledge-based question. To answer this question, students can just search on Google and find the answer. But how are we doing this? After we ask that question, we're providing them with information that supports that question. The information is like light enters our eyes and it is turned into information for our brain to process. That information is sent to our brain where it can make sense of the image. After we provide background information, we are asking how we see colours in objects. Please select all the correct answers as I described before. Instead of asking what, you can ask how. And if you are providing answers for them, you now provide just the correct answer. You can list the answers, and some of them might be right answers, and some of them might be wrong, and they can make the evaluation. In that way, they can practice critical thinking skills from the adventure that we call to find the disappearing colours. If you want to see the other questions in this adventure, you can download the Twin app and see many other examples under this like concept. Now we'll show you another example from our Twin app. The adventure is called Harness the Sun, and the adventure is about the sun and renewable energy sources. One of the questions is, which energy source should we use on the island if we'd like to switch to renewable energy? So in this question, it mentions the island and the energy source. So while we are creating adventures, we always come up with problems and everything is happening on the island. That's why we're creating questions connected to the context that we're giving to children. So since those questions took a little bit longer for young children, you can use this question for all children, but it is not a skill-based question. So if you want to make this question skill-based, what you can do is again, you can provide the background information about the context. You can say that using renewable energy sources provide less pollution so they can help protect the environment. In addition to renewable energy sources, you are giving them details about how it is related to the environment. And the question is why? Why do you think using non-renewable energy sources harm the environment? And select all the answers that apply. So in this question, we provided many answers. Not all of them are true. Not all of them are false. So they need to make judgments to find the right answers. But what makes these questions skill-based is the right section. So, As it is that question, we're not asking which or what, we are asking why. In this way, students need to associate the knowledge they already knew and the knowledge given to them. And this is not something they can find easily on Google or some other resources, because they need to make their own critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Here, I will show you another example from the adventure called Bring Back the Lost Tomato. So we always find interesting topics for our adventures to get children's attention. And the question here is, which of these emit infrared light? So that adventure was about infrared light. So as we see in this question, that is again based on the knowledge, there is no skill required to answer this question correctly. But what we did is, again, we provided them with additional information here to make the connection. And that information is with infrared vision. Snakes can easily see warm-blooded animals against their cooler surroundings. And the question that we created here is, what ways do you think infrared vision can help a snake? So this is a question instead of asking if what happened. Those kind of questions require them to think through the knowledge itself as well as the question itself. So to answer those questions, they need to know, but they also need to have skills. And here I will give you some tips while integrating those skills and the common misconceptions about incorporating 21st century skills. So first of all, acknowledging skills are the same as knowledge is not right, because as we see in the example question from the Twin app, knowledge questions are different from skill-based questions. And the other thing is, teaching skills as a separate lesson is not the right way, because skills themselves are not a lesson. So they are getting a skill base if we integrate those kinds of strategies to subject classes as we have it in the science concept. And introducing the definition of skills is not skill-based learning, because you need to practice those skills in that way to improve those muscles. So you can think like those skills are like muscles. If you use them more, then they will improve more. And teaching skills in standardized ways is not the right way. So what I mean here is, there is no one recipe for integrating skills in your lesson plan. So you can create your strategy based on the age group, based on the classroom background, and based on your students' interests. In that way, you can come up with something unique, like you can use with your students. So another thing here is improving these skills only in the classroom. This is not the right way, because we said those skills would be helpful for outside of education like our life, and it will be helpful for our professional development. So students can improve those skills outside of the classroom as well. Schools are not the only place, and informal learning is part of skill-based learning as well. And lastly, positioning teachers as the main actor in teaching skills is one of the other misconceptions, because children can learn from their peers or their partners, or adults outside where they are interacting or whom they are interacting with. So in this part, just to wrap up, I will talk about integrating 21st century learning. We need to have an application. While I'm saying applications not only have the STEM concept, we need to apply those skills into learning, and the most common way of doing it, like asking questions or having discussions with children. And the other way is a connection. What I mean in connection is a cross-cultural connection. As I said before, skills don't mean anything by themselves. So if you integrate them with other core subjects, there will be an experience for children. And participation is another key component to provide 21st century learning. Students need to be actively involved in this process. This is not something that teachers have full responsibility. They are sharing this responsibility with their students, their parents, and the education ecosystem. And here I listed some of the ways of integrating 21st century skills. As I mentioned before, there are various ways of learning and activities to integrate those skills. Also, you can use technology, especially in the COVID process. Online learning is part of our life, and there are excellent resources and educational tools that might be helpful for 21st century learning. And cross-curricular connection is the best way, because we want students to make connections between concepts. In that way, they can improve those skills. Project-based or problem-based learning is another way to practice those skills, because while they are working on the project, or problem-based questions, they can practice those skills. And collaborative learning environments, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom, are one of the best ways to integrate those skills. And lastly, but not least, assessment is an important part of skill-based learning. Because while we are creating our lesson plan, we always list our learning objectives to make sure that students reach those learning objectives. We need to make assessments, and skill-based assessment is more about qualitative assessment. In that way, you need to observe your students, and that's not going to happen in 1 week or 1 month. So it will take time, but the result will be sustainable. As you can see here, I need to practice digital literacy skills even in my job. And in this part, I'm going to talk about the quote from the UNESCO Education Director. It says, "Today, because of rapid economic and social change, schools have to prepare students for jobs that have not yet been created, technologies that have not yet been invented, and problems that we don't yet know will arise. So in that way, we need skills more than ever." And this quote was taken from the report that OECD introduced called Skills for the Job. The learning skills listed there: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Just a concise tip to remember those skills: they are called 4C because all of them start with C. Those are the most common skills to be used in the learning process and educational contexts. This is the end of the session. Thank you all for your listening, and I hope this session will be useful for you to integrate 21st skills-based learning with your students. We'd love to hear, and again, thank you so much.